These weren't meant to be watched separately. Netflix and Spotify look different. They feel different. But underneath, they're doing the same thing. They reduce friction, they remove hesitation, and they quietly guide your behavior through interface alone. In this recap, we're not changing anything. We're simply watching the builds back to back, so the pattern becomes impossible to miss. This wasn't supposed to work, not because it's difficult, but because it shouldn't even be possible. Rebuilding a product like Netflix, the interface, the flow, the feel, usually takes teams, design systems, and months of iteration. But right now, with one prompt, AI claims it can generate the entire UI in seconds. So today, we're not assuming it works. We're testing it. Welcome back to MetaBuild AI. On this channel, we rebuild famous products using AI, not to copy them, not to steal them, but to understand why they work. Because great products aren't really about features. They're about attention, where your eyes go, what feels obvious, and what quietly pulls you forward without asking. Today's rebuild is a perfect example of that. We're rebuilding Netflix, not the movies, not the back end, not the accounts. Just the interface, the dark stage, the moving spotlight, the layout that somehow makes too many choices feel effortless. And the rule is simple: no APIs, no real data, no manual design work, just one prompt and whatever happens next. This is where things get strange. Instead of designing anything by hand, I'm going to describe the product once, in plain English, and let the AI do the rest. Watch closely, because this part replaces hours of work. Okay? Pause. This didn't just generate boxes. It understood hierarchy. A dominant hero, horizontal discovery rows, visual confidence. This already feels familiar, and that's the dangerous part. Let's slow this down, because this part matters more than the AI. First, the dark background. This isn't aesthetic. It reduces peripheral noise so the content becomes the spotlight. Second, the hero section. Netflix doesn't ask what you want. It suggests what you should want immediately. Third, horizontal rows. This creates infinite choice without decision fatigue. You're never committing, just browsing sideways. And here's the subtle part most people miss. There's almost no instructional text. The interface assumes you already know what to do. That assumption feels like confidence. And confidence creates trust. This isn't about movies. It's about psychology. But a static UI isn't enough. So now let's do what normally lives in part 2. Let's make this feel clickable. Watch what happens when we add simple interactions. Hover states, active cards, page-to-page jumps. None of this is real logic, but your brain doesn't care. Motion creates belief. When something responds to you, it feels alive. This is why interactive prototypes sell ideas. They don't need data. They don't need accounts. They don't need scale. They just need to answer one question. What happens when I click this? And once that question is answered, the product feels real enough to trust. If you're building something yourself, here's the real takeaway. Don't obsess over features first. Obsess over flow. Ask, where does attention land? What feels obvious? What decision is being made for the user? AI didn't replace design here. It compressed execution and made thinking the differentiator. And that's the real test. Not whether AI can generate interfaces, but whether we understand what makes them work. If this helped you think differently about products, you can support the channel at $MetaBuild AI. And in the next episode, we're rebuilding another platform using the same one prompt approach. Netflix is built on momentum. It doesn't want you deciding, it wants you continuing. Every row, every thumbnail, every autoplay cue. It's not asking if you're done, it's assuming you're not. Now watch how a different product uses the same design discipline, not to push you forward, but to keep you exactly where you are. This one feels illegal, not because it's wrong, but because it's way too easy. Rebuilding a product like Spotify, the layout, the rhythm, the way it pulls you into music, is supposed to take serious design thinking. But with one prompt, AI claims it can recreate that experience in seconds. So today, we're not hyping it up. We're testing it. Welcome back to Meta Build AI. On this channel, we rebuild famous products using AI, not to copy them, not to steal them, but to understand why they work. Because great products aren't really about features. They're about habits, muscle memory, and interfaces that disappear while you use them. Spotify is one of the best examples of that. We're rebuilding Spotify, not the music, not the recommendations, not the back end. Just the interface, the sidebar, the playlists, the layout that somehow makes millions of songs feel simple. And the rule is the same. No APIs, no real data, no manual design work. Just one prompt, and whatever happens next. This is where things get strange. Instead of designing screens one by one, I'm going to describe Spotify once, in plain English, and let the AI interpret the product. Watch closely, because this replaces hours of layout decisions. Okay, pause. This didn't just generate a music app. It understood structure, persistent navigation, content density, a layout built for return visits. This already feels familiar. And again, that's the dangerous part. Let's slow this down, because Spotify's power is subtle. First, the sidebar. Spotify anchors you with familiarity. Home never moves. Your library is always there. Second, playlists over albums. Spotify doesn't push ownership, it pushes moods. And third, density without stress. A lot is on screen, but nothing is demanding attention. There's almost no explanation. Spotify assumes you'll figure it out, and that assumption feels like respect. This isn't about music, it's about habit design. But again, a static UI isn't enough. So now, let's do what normally lives in part 2. Let's make this feel interactive. Watch what happens when we add simple interactions. Hover feedback, clickable playlists, page jumps. None of this plays music, but your brain fills in the sound anyway. Motion creates belief. When something responds, it earns your trust. This is why interactive prototypes work. They don't need intelligence. They need responsiveness. If you're building something yourself, here's the lesson. Spotify didn't win with features. It won by becoming familiar. Build for return visits. Build for habit. Build for flow. AI didn't remove design here. It removed friction and exposed what actually matters. And that's the real test. Not whether AI can design apps, but whether we understand why people come back. If this helped you think differently about products, you can support the channel at $MetaBuildAI. And in the next episode, we're rebuilding another platform and testing how far one prompt design can really go. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share this video. You can follow us on all social media platforms at MetaBuildAI for more rebuilds like this. And visit metabuildai.gumroad.com to find today's UI build kit, plus templates, prompts, and other tools used to create this content. New builds drop regularly, so stay connected.